On the recruiting trail, it was a big weekend in Starkville for Mississippi State football. I believe 17 visitors coming through campus, several of whom had already been committed to Mississippi State, but some of the top guys in the class and a lot of guys who were top priority targets for Mississippi State to land in this class. And you expected State to be able to make a push towards a lot of these players. And obviously to this point, we've not heard a ton from several commitments, but State did pick up officially one commitment over the weekend, and that is quarterback Gavin Hampton out of Riverdale High School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Trying to get that. There we go. Okay, making sure I was getting the screen shared. 88 overall on the composite ranking, 6'4", 207. I've seen him listed up around 210, 212 elsewhere. The number 37 quarterback in the class of 2027, number 629 nationally. Some debate and frustration online over that ranking because he was previously rated as, I think, like a top 20 or top 25 type quarterback going into this. So that is a product of reclassifying. The reclassifying happened just recently, going from a 2028 QB to being 2027. That was made official, I think, early last week. So all the recruiting services catching up on that, and the general practice is when a guy does reclassify, they get dropped a little bit in the rating because it's just a matter of we've had one less year of evaluating this player. So, that's natural. A lot of talk over did he get dropped from being a 4-star or not. I know Brian Haydad talked a little bit about this on Thunder and Lightning. I don't remember ever seeing him be a 4-star prior to this. So that I know that was like a whole big thing is, we're saying he's a 4-star when, was he or wasn't he? Look, ultimately, I don't really care one way or another. And that's not me doing a stars don't matter thing. I think stars do matter. But I think ultimately you have to evaluate each player and say, do you think you're getting a good prospect here? And I think Mississippi State's getting a good player in Gavin Hampton. You look at some of the offers, Arizona State, Cincinnati, Colorado, Illinois is the other teams there. But Mississippi State was kind of the one. We knew that he's got Mississippi State connections within his family. He had said, back in like April when he was still looking at being a 2028 commit, that State was kind of in the lead. Feels like this is the program that he wanted to come and play for, Jeff Lebby and be a part of that offense. And sort of whenever he got the right time to commit, he was going to make that commitment. And sure enough, he reclassified to 2027, and now he is Mississippi State's official quarterback in the class of 2027. And a really solid get. And we're actually here in just a second going to go through his huddle film, do a little bit of film study and react to some of this. I'm not going to watch it all, but give you guys an idea of the type of player that you're getting with Gavin Hampton coming to Starkville. But again, I think a quality addition, big frame. You'll see it when we watch through some of the film. A good arm to be able to push the ball downfield, solid mobility, a very accurate passer, which I think stands out quite a bit. The ability to make plays out of structure at a really nice level. He's a quality addition, and obviously there's going to be a lot of discussion over, how much of an impact does this guy ultimately even make for Mississippi State, considering that Kamario Taylor is your guy for the next couple seasons. You got Brody McQuarter right now on the roster, who I think was a solid pickup for State in the 2026 class. And kind of everyone has written it off like, are we ever going to see meaningful snaps from Brody McQuarter outside of, you don't want to wish a Kamario Taylor injury or speak it into existence, but unless Kamario were to go down with injury, are we ever going to see meaningful snaps from Brody McQuarter? I don't know. We have no way of knowing for sure. And the same question, of course, is going to come up with a player like Hampton, although the timeline's a little bit more favorable for him. But you don't look at it that way, right? You have to go and bring talented quarterbacks into the roster. And, I don't think it's a necessity that you're going out and signing a Elite 11 quarterback every single year and a guy that's a consensus 4-star that every top program wants. I think you can find plenty of quality QBs who fit this system well. And play. I think Hampton's a player like that. But obviously, the existence of Kamario was going to impact quarterback recruiting a little bit in terms of the type of guys you were going to be able to go after. But I think he's a good pickup. And I look at this guy and I think if he did have another season of college football in 2028, because he's going into what would be his junior year under normal circumstances, I think he probably would get rated as a 4-star in the end based on what I've watched of him and be a blue chip player that would probably pick up some more offers along the way. I think he's a talented addition, and you're adding a piece to your roster that whether he's able to make an impact or not long term, you're getting a guy that is good depth at the very least and could feasibly develop into being a guy that you lean on. So let's try to get over to the huddle film here, and let me get that set up. Make sure that's sharing. Okay. And we're going to have a giant T-Mobile ad kind of in the way here. Should have the volume turned off. And now look, obviously with Huddle, it's a highlight film. You understand that. So any bad plays are not going to be shown here. So it's not a full breakdown, but gives you an idea of the type of player you're getting. Gives you the idea of the type of player that you're targeting. Obviously, the highlights are what you're going after. And I think there's a lot of good stuff to watch here. So make sure this starts playing for us. Right away, this is a deep shot to the outside right receiver. You get a quarters look from the defense, and anytime you get a look like that from your defense, you're hoping to get that inside receiver to pull the safety away, and you've got that one-on-one on the outside on the deep post route. Makes a great throw, hits his receiver for a touchdown there. Shows off the arm strength right away. Big-time throw. Here's another one. Going to be another shot play here. Kind of getting this drop 8, cover 3 look. Basically, you got this running back coming out of the backfield, matched up one-on-one with this linebacker. This guy's clearing him out, and now you've got the running back working down the sideline, and Hampton makes a good throw in stride for the big gain down the field. I don't remember what this one was exactly. Okay, you see the example, him working out of the pocket, and that's another big thing you want to watch there. This guy does a really nice job when he gets out of structure and he has to create on his own. 1, keeps the eyes downfield, does a good job of that. 2, has the arm talent to make those throws down the field in those situations. And then 3, converts on them. He's really impressive with some of the out-of-structure stuff. And that's where having the arm strength he does stands out. To be able to push the ball downfield in those situations like that. Here you're going to get a quarterback draw RPO, and this is the athleticism. On his own profile, he lists himself as a pro-style quarterback. And if you look at his numbers from last year, if I go over to 247, passed for nearly 2,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 picks. So, the 12 picks is a little bit high, and obviously you're not going to see that here in the huddle. Only ran it 74 times for 94 yards. So obviously sacks are factoring in there with 4 touchdowns. When you watch him run the football, though, you see him be an effective runner. And you see that be something that he can utilize with his legs. A very quick runner. Not a guy that is blazing fast and is going to run away from defenders, and certainly not a guy that's got the shiftiness to make guys miss in space. But getting downhill quickly, whether it be on a quarterback draw, an option look, he can do that effectively. And Jeff Lebby wants his quarterbacks to be able to do that. We saw him. He did it with Blake Shapen, of all people. Hampton can handle that. And the other difference is Hampton is a big enough guy at 6'4", 210 to withstand some hits. And there's a few runs we'll see here in a bit where you see some of that physicality. Okay, here's another good throw to kind of get back to the action. You got a cover 1 robber look. So you got one-on-one, taking the slot on the corner route. That's definitely the primary there, and a great throw for the touchdown. This is a nice one right here. Again, under pressure, got a guy about to hit him. Stay strong in the pocket. He sees this window opening up for the guy on the crosser, and while getting hit, delivers a good strike for a nice completion there. Don't see a ton of zip on the ball. There's a difference between raw arm strength, being able to push the ball down the field, and throwing with a ton of zip behind it. And that's one of those things where spinning the ball quickly in the short to intermediate range is not something you see a ton of with him. It's more just pushing the ball down the field. But that's not, the be-all, end-all. And you also talk about a guy who's coming off a sophomore season. You can develop more of that as you go forward. And that's another thing to remember. Some of these throws, this is a guy who's a true sophomore making these. This is a really nice throw right here. Going to throw a 10-yard out route, back of the drop, perfect throw. Great stuff right there. Taking the access throw to the outside. Another shot play down the field. and a beautiful throw. More than enough arm strength. Here's a nice one. You see him layering that over the defenders. He had a one-on-one with that outside receiver on that crossing pattern, but still had to fit it over all the action there in the middle of the field. Really nice throw from him there. This is a zone read keeper. Just another example of him being able to get upfield quickly and be effective using his legs, even if that's not going to be the primary thing you look at. He can do it well. Scrambling outside the pocket a little bit, making the throw down the field. Really accurate pass. You love to see that right there. Good throw on the corner route there. Again, kind of throwing off script and just getting downfield to his receiver. Making a good play. Getting out of the pocket, scrambling. For a guy who only ran for 90-something yards, I think he's a much more effective runner than the stats would tell you. Like that one right there, under pressure with the blitz coming in and just throws to replace the pressure. And is it a crazy throw? No, but being able to get big and make that throw over the middle of the field to the open guy downfield and not miss him. That's another thing there is you get opportunities like that where you're going to have an open receiver, but you got to do it with the defense in your lap. He shows the ability of some of that. And here's obviously goes for a touchdown, but you got a few screen passes you might see later where he shows some of that as well. Taking the one-on-one back shoulder throw while getting hit. This is one I like quite a bit, and I might actually try to go back on this one if we can get to it. So, all right, right here. So they're scheming one up. He's going to fake toss action this way, and he's got this player running underneath, going quick to the flat. And the idea, get the defense flowing hard that way and then get this guy underneath, let him get upfield for a nice gain. And that's where he's going to look off the reverse action. He gives this a pump fake. He gives this a look, and it's open. He can take this. But he sees this linebacker coming down, and he understands if he throws this, it's a minimal gain. Either this guy's going to have to break a tackle. More likely we're not getting a lot here. But what he knows is with all that action going that way, pulling the defense off that direction, plus this guy coming down, he knows he's got his number 2 breaking wide open across the middle. And he makes the throw. And that's just a good look there, recognizing I've got my number 1 for a minimal gain, but based on the flow of the defense, I know I can get to my number 2 here and get a lot more yardage. And that's just one of those examples of something you want to look to. A guy clearly understanding the concept and understanding what he's seeing from the defense and where to go with the football because of it. Getting outside the pocket, layering the ball downfield. I think that guy was kind of open. So speed option look. And look, some physicality there. I know he goes down with the main tackle, but still is able to lunge ahead and get more out of the run. And that's stuff you'd like to be able to see. This one, let's watch this one back after this option here. Because this is another example of the making a play out of structure, but then also the arm talent to push the ball as well. So, only a rush 3 look, but clearly, his primary reads there doesn't have what he wants. Is step up, and he's scrambling off to his right. And he's going to commit a no-no. All right, you are not supposed to throw the ball back across the field. But he sees, I got all these guys, both these defenders running with my crosser right here. And I got a one-on-one with this guy leaking up the field. And he throws back across his body, off balance. And look, I know that's 20 yards. It's nothing crazy, but it's going to hit him nearly 40 yards down the field. That's a good throw. That's a really nice throw, and that's not an easy throw. And it kind of shows off a little bit of the arm talent that he's got available to him. Pumps, gets big, hits the screen pattern over the middle. Again, evading pressure in the pocket, not going down, using his big frame to his advantage. And then throws a seed downfield to a receiver one-on-one. Really nice play. See him working through the reads, getting to the middle of the field. Like to see that. We'll watch a few more here. One-on-one ball down the sidelines. Great throw. Gets outside the pocket for a good gain. Breaking through contact. That was his helmet that goes flying off there, and he gets up, fired up. You love it. Really good ball placement. And the accuracy is one of those things that stands out with him. Very accurate with the passer. And, like I mentioned, he's got a big arm, but is there a ton of velocity behind the ball? No. But that's where, so it matters to understand the timing and understanding ball placement and understanding how to fit the ball into a certain window. He clearly has that. So, really talented passer. Again, fitting the ball over the middle of the field, layering it over defenders. Here's scrambling in for a touchdown. I think there was one more play I wanted to be able to get to. Crossing pattern. Let's see where it comes up. I'm trying to remember. There was one more I wanted to see. Again, much better athlete than I think he probably is going to get credit for coming out. I think he's a pretty good runner of the football. This is the one. Again, and kind of what I'm getting to in terms of timing. It was the one after this. And there's timing with that one as well. He's got this hook route that's going to come and where he's going to fit it between like 2 or 3 defenders, and understanding he's got the window and understanding when he's got to throw the football to get it there. I mean, the defense reacts to it pretty well. They're on him by the time he catches the ball, but because of when he's able to get rid of the football, he's able to get it out there. So look, again, we're not going to watch the entire video, but I think I look at Hampton, and I think he is a really solid ad. And like I said, if you were talking about this guy being a 2028 prospect, a whole other year of development, I have little doubt you'd be looking at a guy that's a consensus 4-star prospect and would have an even more impressive offer sheet. I think this is a good get for Mississippi State. He big frame, big arm. Again, not a ton of zip on the football, but this is all as a sophomore. That can grow. So you can get more velocity behind the football and hit more of those tight window throws, but he already shows the ability to pull off some of those tight window throws just because he's got good timing and he's a very accurate passer. And I will absolutely take that over a guy that throws with a ton of zip but doesn't have that. And a plus runner as well. Can absolutely make an impact with his legs. He can certainly handle the run stuff that Levy's going to ask. He's a good fit within this offense. I think he's really the type of quarterback. He'd be a good fit in a lot of offenses. I think this is a guy that is not system dependent. He could play in a lot of different schemes. I like the addition. And the other thing that stood out to me, and it's kind of one of the last things I'll say on him that I liked quite a bit, when you watch him, you see good operation of the offense. And again, this is huddle film. It's a highlight tape. We mentioned did have 12 interceptions on the season, so clearly there's some plays that have to get worked out. But at least what you get off the huddle is you see a guy that, as a sophomore, has a really good understanding of his offense and where he needs to go with the football based on the look he's getting from the defense. He looks comfortable. As a lot of those are primary read throws. You would expect that. But you see him working 1-2 or working from the front side to the back side on some of these plays, which you don't always get with a young QB. A lot of those guys, first read's not there. I mean, it's true in college, but in high school, it's all especially true when you're seeing first read not there. Let me reset, look backside, as opposed to just immediately taking off and scrambling. It looks just very comfortable within the system. Something I would talk about with Matt Corral at Ole Miss. For a guy that ran the offense you're going to get with Levy, I felt Corral was very mechanical and how he operated that offense. He just had a very good understanding of, I know where I'm supposed to be based on what I see from the defense within that system. And it's a system that gives you a lot of clear answers and creates clear pictures. Doesn't ask the quarterback to read things super complicated, but it creates a clear picture for you. And as long as you've got a guy who has that understanding of, I know these plays, I know how to execute them, you're going to be successful. And that's something that you want to see from your quarterbacks moving down the line. He's showing a lot of that as a sophomore, which is really impressive. And when he does get out of structure and he is looking to create, it's not just try to take off. The eyes are downfield, and he's trying to hit a big play down the field, which you love to be able to see. So, yeah, I think Gavin Hampton is a really good pickup for State. We'll see what the final rating is. I could see it justified to him be a 4-star by the end of this class, even reclassifying to 2027. But don't get hung up on the star rating. I think this is a good pickup, and whether or not this is a guy that, again, following Kamario Taylor and what the next couple of years are going to look like. Are you going to see Gavin Hampton play quarterback for Mississippi State or be a starting quarterback? It's impossible to say one way or another, but it's certainly a guy you'd rather have on the roster than not to give yourself that option moving forward. This is a really nice pickup, and hopefully can lead to some more momentum for Mississippi State recruiting going forward.